All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Street Angel podcast with myself, Angelo Thomas. So, this week's episode is about. I wasn't sure what to title it actually, but it's. Let's just go with it, and then I'll do the little pretty picture thingy after this episode. But it's basically you're empathic, not an empath. And it came about from a conversation with a really dear friend of mine last week, where, she gave me a call. Her name's Sonia. She's the artist on my upcoming published project. God, I can't speak this morning, sorry. And she asked me simply, how are you going? And it was kind of like one of those things where I'm like, oh, well, isn't everyone just being feral? Just being ratty. And I explained that my wife's also been feeling this, and she'd mentioned that people around her had just been feeling like, like sponges that are full. And I thought to myself, it's no wonder we feel like this. I mean, we've had all four horsemen of the apocalypse visit us over the past couple of years. We've had plague, we've had famine happening, especially in Australia. We've had death around us. We've had, I don't know what the last one is, but I used to remember them all. But basically, we've had a pretty hard time across the globe, and it's still happening. People's resilience is dropping. They're feeling like they've been running a marathon. A lot of negative and horrible things are happening around the world, and because we live in a 24-hour news cycle, we are hearing about it more and more and more often. We've become, if anything, more sensitive to it. And this is where Sonia and I were talking about how it's everyone's feeling it, and that got us onto a broader conversation around the fact that everyone is empathic. I strongly believe that we are all empathic to a certain degree. I mean, come on, you've all walked into a room and felt someone's had an argument 5 minutes beforehand. You just feel things. And sure, some people are more attuned than others. I get that, and I fully believe in that. But there are other people out there that are empathic, but just, I don't know, through life circumstances or experiences have subconsciously or consciously chosen not to connect with that side of themselves. And that's where I wanted to talk today about the great empath lie. So let's get started. I have written myself some notes because I have been finding myself digressing a lot lately. So let's get started. What's the bet anyone out there has seen those hilarious memes on, whether they be on Instagram or on Facebook, where it says about, 5 signs you're an empath, 10 signs you're an empath, any of the numbers. I think I actually saw one that was up to about 20 or 25, and I was like, okay, right, now we're getting a bit, we're taking the piss a bit. But a lot of those signs are what everyday people experience. And it fascinates me that we have to differentiate ourselves or make ourselves feel more special. But it's just, you can name anything of those signs. I could make a meme, five signs you're an empath with this idea over here. I could do 5 signs you're a houseplant, or five signs that you're a lapdog. I've only said those 2 things because I've got one on either side of me. So, but if we think about it, being an empath with a capital E, as in actually I am an empath, the whole idea or the myth, the romance, the way in which people wax on lyrically about it, whether it be on social media or in real life, I 100% do not believe that you could be one, because you would be too afraid to step outside your front door. You would not be able to be in a relationship. You would not even be able to have friends. It reminds me of Marvel characters that, like the X-Men or something like that, where someone is considered an empath. And I mean, they're mind readers. They literally can read minds, they can see what you're thinking, they can feel what you're feeling to such a degree where it's debilitating. And there's storylines which go along around how that they actually have to manage that. Now, I believe in a lot of things, but I don't believe the X-Men are real. And I do not believe that there are such things as empaths with a capital E to that degree. It's like I said, a lot of people out there are more sensitive to energy. A lot of people are more connected to the world around them than others, but we are all connected. If anything, the whole idea of being an empath reminds me very much of the word clairsentient. Clairsentient is when you feel. So it's, you've got second feeling. It's like clairvoyant is clear second sight, clairaudience is hearing. You can also have claircognizance, which is knowing. But it goes on to explain, like, being clairsentient explains the way in which you're able to connect with the energy, the way in which you're able to feel the energy. Clairsentience, when they're connecting to spirits, will sometimes feel the way in which they've passed over. They'll feel an ailment that that spirit had when they were alive. They'll feel the emotions of that spirit. They'll even feel the emotions of the person sitting in front of them at that time. And it's a way in which I would say to someone, it's a process. It explains how we do something, not who or what we are. You can say, I'm a clairvoyant or I'm a clairsentient, but I mean, do we really need to keep defining ourselves with such labels? But I genuinely believe that people who are very connected or very sensitive are simply clairsentient. And again, it's your way of connecting with energy, but not your way of defining yourself. Because you can also connect with the energy different ways. Like, I know people that can do all 5 clairs, as they call them. Sure, one might be your most prominent. I always say to people, the way in which to determine which is your most prominent of your clairs is to figure out when you buy clothes. Do you like the look of them? Do you like the feel of them? Do you just know what you always like to wear and that's it? Do you like to get compliments from other people? We all like to get compliments from other people. That's okay. But it pretty much helps you know whether or not you're a visual person, a feeling person. Do you like listening to podcasts or do you like watching podcasts, as in those vlog podcasts? It's a difference again, audio or visual. But, before I go down that rabbit hole of clairs, which I'm more than happy to do on another podcast to explain in absolute detail all those different clairs, I just, bring it back to the empath. It's just another label where we like to differentiate ourselves. And I genuinely ask myself each day, why do we need so many labels? Why can't we just explain this is something we do as opposed to something we who or are? This is another part of the whole empath lie that kind of makes me think too, and I'd love to hear other people's opinions on it. But it's using being an empath as an excuse. I know for a fact that, again, we can feel energy, we can be affected by it, but it's no reason to use it as an excuse to not be a good friend, to not be polite and civil, or to not be a functioning, productive member of society. Now, I'm not verging into the territory of mental health. I am by no means, I'm just not qualified. And I should not and will not have an opinion on that. That is something between an individual and their medical practitioner. But it's when we hear people who, and we all know there's people out there, we've all come across them, that say, I'm such an empath, I just can't deal. I can't deal today. Something's happening across the other side of the world. I'm going to have to go within myself and seek spirit. There's a war going on, so I just can't function. I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm just going to have to sit and contemplate and, heal the earth, and the list goes on. Now, I find that incredibly privileged, because whatever's happening across the other side of the world is not affecting you. It is not affecting you directly. You know, let's have a little bit of resilience. And while I'm not taking away anyone's experiences or their reality, you got to admit, it's pretty privileged of someone to sit in a very lucky country who isn't experiencing war at the time to say, oh, I'm such an empath, I get to tap out. Well, those people don't get to tap out. People on the periphery don't get to tap out. It's very self-absorbed, and it's almost that you're in denial of reality. And, you know, this might make people think, oh, Angela's getting a bit tough here. But it's just using that whole idea of an empath or being empathic to escape reality. If anything, we are given our connection to spirit. We are given our connection to the divine, and we are given basically this opportunity to live in this meat suit as humans, to not escape reality, but to fully experience reality in every single form. Life gets yucky, life gets sticky, life gets horrible. But it's those bad moments that highlight the good. It's almost like where I say to people that, you know, we are living in uncertain times. I completely agree with that. But when has there been a time in human history when there hasn't been uncertainty? One of my favorite light bulb moments was when, about a year ago, I was watching that movie with Bette Midler for the boys. Me and Eddie were watching it, and I think it's based on one of the wars, Korean, could even be the Vietnam, but basically it was in that era. And the main character, she said pretty much to wrap it up, was like, well, we're living in such uncertain times. And fast forward to today, over the past 2 years, I have heard that statement so much. And while it is real and it is happening, again, we have those people who claim to be empaths that say that they just can't deal and they just need to escape. They need to, as I said, not go to work. Not even, just, it fascinates me. Sometimes I get lost for words because it's, we're always in uncertain times. So you think to yourself, well, Angelo, what's your answer to all this? It's lean in. When we are going through uncertain times and when spirit is showing us signs that, showing us or more so reminding us that humanity has gone through so many uncertain times in the past, we need to lean into it. Through destruction and chaos comes beauty, innovation, and grace. It's, when you think about the moments that have shaped human history and civilization, it is literally been the uncertain times. There's been medical breakthroughs, technological breakthroughs, advancements in different industries. And it's because people have leaned in. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to lean in and start inventing something right now. But what I mean by lean in is, lean into your individual work. Lean into, if you're a civil servant, get in there, distract yourself with being busy. Make sure that you can make your little patch of earth a happier, more productive place. If you happen to be self-employed, throw yourself into that work. Give yourself some space within your little world, and therefore allow other people to have the space to do the same thing. So instead of you taking up all this space and, complaining or saying that I'm such an empath and I just feel too much and carrying on like an absolute turkey, lean into your own world. Get busy. One of the things that I like to do when I feel very overwhelmed with the state of affairs, is I get busy. I clean like a maniac. I love natural cleaning products, but by golly, I get the bleach out. Sometimes I nearly pass out from it, but we've all been there before. But I clean. I go out and garden. I even hop on the internet. I was about to say on the socials, and sometimes I might do a live, do some free readings for people, pull out some oracle cards, or I even just call someone up and just check how they're going. It's about leaning in and accepting, understanding, acknowledging that we're all going through this. It's one of those statements where people can sometimes feel a little bit upset about this statement, but everyone's feeling it. Um, you know, Everyone's feeling what's going on at the moment. Everyone's uncertain. Everyone is, a little worried or a lot worried about the future. But what makes it better is that we're all going through it together. It's that collective way of going through it. It's it just doesn't help when we just claim to be holier than thou, spiritual wannabes who start describing ourselves as empaths with a capital E, and therefore we get the right and we get the choice and the privilege to just go off and escape, go and sit at the beach for a week, completely just act like we are literally at the center of this conflict, the center of this calamity or uncertainty, yet then go out and just, be spiritual. You're not. We're not being affected. It's one of those things where it really, it hurts the movement, or it hurts a new age movement, the soulful movement, the spiritual movement, whatever you want to call it. Because from the outside, it makes us look a little silly. And I'm probably being mean to these poor birds, but it makes us look a little bit like turkeys. There's always that saying when I see someone, act a little bit of a fool, I say, well, they've just proved you don't have to have a long neck to be a goose. And that's how I sometimes feel about the great empath lie. Now, going back to what's happening right now, I think I mentioned it at the beginning. We are all very antsy. We are, feeling a little on edge. We're feeling that things aren't necessarily going our way. I'm sure that's a song, actually. But like I said, let's lean in. Let's help each other. Let's be kinder to each other. Let's stop acting like we're better than each other, and recognize that this is reality. I do love it when I see people, and I mean facetiously sarcastic when I say this. I love it when people do this. But again, just saying, I can't deal with this reality, or I'm not really human. I'm a hybrid, or I'm a starseed, I'm a this. And I mean, they have like 14 different labels after their name. I even did that on my Instagram bio just to take the mickey of it. But yeah, we're all going through it. So I hate to break it to some peeps, but you're not special. And this is reflected in some of the work that I have been doing with the archangels at the moment. I did a recording last week for a friend's podcast where we spoke around the angels, the galactics, how they interchange, what makes them different, what makes them similar, their role in the ascension process, healing process, and whatnot. And one of the messages that came through was from Archangel Zadkiel. Now, I haven't got it written down on me, and I can only paraphrase it, but you'll hear it when their episode comes out in a few weeks. But it was basically saying that we are going through a transformation. We are all being called upon here to be strong, and we're going through a transformation, but it is not new. The world transforms daily, hourly, each minute. You wonder how things can change in a blink of an eye. That's life. What we've got to do is start remembering the divine's language of love, the universe's language of logic, and that means what? It means to balance. It means that we need balance back in our lives. We need to, balance the darkness with the light, balance the crazy with being grounded. And when you combine all those thoughts and concepts, it basically is saying to you right now, I get the world's in a little bit of a mess, but let's not lose our heads. Let's not revert back to Chicken Little. I'm sure you've all heard of Chicken Little, where the sky's falling. I think like a rock fell on the poor bird's head, and then she thought the whole world was caving in. But yeah, I find it very fascinating that, you know, the world isn't falling, but to those people who claim to be empaths, they act as if it is, and that only means that we are going to be at the mercy of people like Foxy Loxy. And Foxy Loxy was the one who led the turkey, the duck, and the chook, chicken, for people that don't understand that word, into his den and ate them. And I mean, look, I've just completely digressed with another Golden Girls reference because I did a really hilarious episode on that. But it just goes to show, like, if we lose our heads and we start acting like turkeys, it's not going to have a favourable outcome. So, to wrap it up, I have digressed a little bit this episode, but I wanted to fit a whole lot of ideas and concepts into that myth of the great empath myth. And that way you can get a little bit of a taste for some of those other things, and you can let me know if you'd like to hear more. But yeah, to wrap it up, there is, in my mind, no such thing as an empath. We are all empathic to a certain degree, some more than others. Let's stop making those 5 signs you're an empath memes. Let's, stop trying to create all these labels. As I said at the beginning, let's explain how we do something as opposed to saying who or what we are. If you do find yourself being more susceptible to fluctuating energies, or you find yourself overwhelmed when you do spirit work or energy work, look into clairsentience. It's a way in which you connect with the energy, but not a way in which you define yourself. There's heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of resources and YouTubes and podcasts and even just blog posts, really, books around that. If you are feeling a bit overwhelmed and a bit saturated, you've got too much energy, there's grounding techniques you can do. The Japanese forest bathing technique, where you go for a walk in the forest. You don't take any technology with you. One of my favorite grounding techniques, because I find it a bit difficult at times to ground the energy. I don't use it as an excuse. I just find it difficult, so I find ways around it. Is I look at what's around me. My indoor plant, my dragon skull crystal, my computer in front of me, a horseshoe from the island of Tinos, my lamp, my tarot cards, my 2 dogs, a schnauzer and a French bulldog. It's bringing me back into the here and now, what's around me. It's literally grounded me back. It's a technique that was given to me by my Reiki master in Darwin, where she said that, instead of focusing too much on all these over-the-top spiritual techniques around grounding your energy, she said, just look at what's around you. If you feel the need, touch it. Touch the computer, touch the plant. Maybe not touch someone else's dog, but maybe just, ask if you can pat it. After a Reiki treatment, she would tell people to, look around her place, touch things. She would say them before you get in the car, stick your feet on the dirt. Then when you're in the car, take some time to, watch the buttons, the steering wheel, what street are you on? And as you're driving home, be very conscious and aware. Look at, there's a certain restaurant on that side. There's that business. There's this landmark. So that's a really good idea too, to ground your energy and to become more in the moment. Alternatively, like I said, lean in. Lean into your space, so allowing other people to have their space. So you're busy, you're productive, you're getting on with things, and it allows other people their space to react and act in their own way as well. Now, if anyone out there has any questions, or if anyone out there is actually themselves feeling a little overwhelmed with the current state of affairs, like I said, we've had the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse visit over 2 years. I'm not going to go biblical end of days stuff on us, but it's hectic and it's still going. Go contact me, send me a message, send me an email, let me see if I can give you some techniques to lean in, to distract, to ground, to be mindful. I can always, if people are interested, do a quick bonus episode next week, which is around anchoring your energy. It's a very, very easy 5-10 minute visualization. Or if you yourself have some ideas on how you ground and anchor and release, lean in, whatever mechanism you wish to call it, when you are going through these uncertain times, leave it in the comments on the YouTube or share with me, and I'll share it with people on my social media pages. But I'd really like to hear it, because I always say to people, there is no one wrong or right way to do anything in this life. The more crass saying is there's, more than one way to skin a cat. But being a vegetarian, vegan, I'm not really into that. But you get the point. So, and it's again, my interpretation of empathy, empathicness, and empath with a capital E. It's just simply my experience. If you do wish to call yourself an empath, I'm not going to have go at you. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not even going to bat an eyelid. But I would remind people that let's stop using it as an excuse. Let's check our privilege, especially when we're in a society or a community, an area where we're directly not affected by something. And while I don't want to take away anyone else's experiences or reality, just be mindful. Just be mindful of how we come across when we start saying that we're empaths and therefore we have to retreat and remove ourselves from society. Because a lot of people out there don't get the opportunity to do that. Now, I might just end it there, because there's been a lot of concepts in that one, a little bit of meandering, but I think that's just the way in which I tell a story. I'm very nonlinear in that respect. So, get back to me, provide me feedback. If you need help, send me a message. If you can offer other people a help and would love to share your ways in which to help, send me a message and I'll share it. Be sure to subscribe to The Street Angel on all podcast directories. I've even added it to Google now, so if you tell your friends to have a listen, they should be able to pop The Street Angel podcast, those words, into Google and it will come up. Be also sure to follow me on Instagram at the Angelo Thomas. Please also be aware that some Muppet out there has copied my account. They've spelt Angelo with 2 L's. Angelo is only ever spelt with 1 L. In English, that is. And if you're ever in doubt, please know that I do not do readings at this time. I will not message you or solicit any money from you or any opportunities from you. But if you are in doubt, send me an email. My email is on this podcast, or go to my website and there's a chat option, just to make sure that you're following the right Angelo. I think this is just a sign of the times, guys, with people copying other accounts. There's no use calling them low vibe or calling them names or anything like that. Yes, they're not pleasant people, but they're a sign of our times. So I prefer just block, report, and don't engage. So on that, be kind, be nice. If you're feeling overwhelmed, lean in, give other people some space, be productive, and just try and have a good day and take it one day at a time. Thanks, guys.